CNBC's Healthy Returns virtual event. It's underway now with healthcare leaders at the center of the fight against the coronavirus. Our Meg Tirrell is speaking with the CEOs of Moderna and Regeneron on a vaccine. Let's listen in.
All right. I want to start where Tyler just mentioned timelines, because both of you are doing projects at timelines we have never seen before. You know, Stephane, you just got fast track designation this morning from the FDA for your vaccine for COVID-19, which almost seems a little bit ceremonial given the speed you were already moving with this program. And Dr. Fauci mentioned in his testimony this morning, it's only been something like 62 days from when you guys envisioned this project together to now, when you're already in human clinical trials and already talking about starting your phase 2. And Len, with your new drug approach with an antibody development, you already set the record in Ebola for 9 months from envisioning the project to getting into human testing. And now you aim to break that in 5 months for your antibody drug for COVID-19. So I want to ask you both, how are you doing this, shattering these timelines, even from the timelines you set at the beginning of this project? And Len, let's start with you. What are you doing differently here that's allowing you to speed this up so much?
Sure. So thanks for having us, Meg. Let me just start out by saying that what we're going to talk about here is reflective of decades of investment. People who know Regeneron and have followed us for a while knew that the first 25 years of the company, we actually lost money every single year. But we continue to invest in technology, and the technology is getting better and better and better. And we've used this technology as a way to make human antibodies. What the immune system normally does when it's faced with a virus, it makes antibodies because it wants to fight this invader. When we have an effective vaccine, hopefully Stephane and others will bring that to the market, a vaccine tricks the body into making these antibodies. But no matter what, it takes some time and it takes some work on the body. So even on day one, you're not ready to go if you've seen a new bug. It takes a while. We can make these antibodies in our new technology. As you said, normally it takes years and years to do all this. We sped it up with Ebola. We knew that there was a big problem. And the Ebola opportunity taught us a lot of things, and it set the land speed record of getting into patients in about 9 months. Now we hope to do it in 5 months. Our team was just entirely focused. The day that they had the sequence, they were on this new virus. They were making what they needed to make. They were putting the virus in the magical mice. We were doing things in parallel. We were taking risks. And this, I think, speaks to the fact that everybody has to understand this only happens when you have a robust biotechnology industry that is invested in technology and biology for decades.
Absolutely. Stephane, tell us a little bit about what you're doing differently here in terms of envisioning the trials even taking place on top of one another. As you get certain data from one, you're starting the next. How are you managing to compress these timelines in such an unprecedented way?
So I think it's a bit similar to what Len just said. First, the technology. We have, as you know, Meg, invested for now 9 years in the technology, maybe $600-700 million just going into pure science. This is the 10th vaccine we are putting into clinical studies. So there's been a lot of learning there. We have worked with Dr. Tony Fauci team on the Middle East respiratory syndrome, another coronavirus, for almost 2 years now. And our manufacturing plant. When we build our manufacturing plant, a lot of people, say, this is too early, you guys are crazy. And if we had worked with contract manufacturers, we could never have moved so fast. And I think, of course, the FDA and the dialogue we've had with the FDA, which is almost literally daily, as we have questions, as we're trying together to figure out how do we move fast but safely. In everything we do, safety is extremely important. And of course, even more with vaccines, because you give vaccines to healthy people in your clinical studies, but also commercially down the road if we get there. And so safety is very important. So one of the things we've done is, as the phase 2 is going to start, any day now, is really to think about what is the minimum body of data we need given the risk reward to start the phase 2. And what we agreed is that safety was very important, to have a safety from a phase 1. But in normal times, we would have waited for antibody levels, look at all the data, ask experts, and only then start to make the phase 2 material if success in phase 1, and then recruit and start the site for phase 2. So here we say, look, lives are at stake. Let's make the phase 2 material at risk during the phase 1. Let's not wait for the immunogenicity, the neutralization antibody data. Let's just go into phase 2 as soon as we know the safety of a phase 1 is positive.
And so you got the go-ahead from the FDA to start the phase 2, knowing the safety from the phase 1 is positive. When will we get to see those phase 1 data?
So as soon as the NIH and ourselves feel that there is data to be shared. So as you know, the phase 1 study is being conducted by Dr. Tony Fauci and his team. So as soon as we have data that makes sense, we will, of course, share it. We know everybody's eager to see the data. And I would say same thing on the preclinical data. I mean, as you know, in some therapeutic area like cancer that Len and his company know very well, preclinical models are complicated to translate into human. But in infectious disease, that has been shown by many companies before us, if you get the right animal model, you can do a challenge into an animal where you vaccinate them, and then you give them a very high dose of a virus. And you can see, are we getting protection? And so that also preclinical work should be published pretty soon now.
I'm sure we'll be looking eagerly to see that. Len, I wonder if you can tell us just a little bit about your confidence level in your antibody approach working. When you talk to a lot of people who know the industry well, including Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who we had on earlier, he always brings up Regeneron as one of the companies he's watching to give us a new tool potentially come the fall. And you have done this, of course, for Ebola just recently, using your magical mice, as you call them. So, we hear about there's only a 10% success rate in getting a new drug across the finish line when you start the development. But where would you put your probability of success in COVID-19 for your antibody approach?
That's a great question, Meg. I appreciate Dr. Gottlieb's mentioning of what we do. I have to say that we're pretty optimistic for two different reasons. The first reason is what we're trying to do is simply to imitate what nature normally does. If you think about a newborn or a baby developing in utero, that baby doesn't have a great immune system. So what does nature do? The mother sends her antibodies across the placenta so that if anything gets to the baby, that baby is protected by those antibodies. That's a passive transfer of her antibodies to the baby's antibodies. After that baby is born, the first mother's milk and subsequent to that, milk provides antibodies because the baby's immune system is really not up to snuff. So this passive transfer of antibodies is a very natural thing, and it goes on all the time, as I said, in those contexts. But it was also shown, actually the first Nobel Prize ever awarded for medicine or physiology was for immunology, where von Behring had discovered that if you took people who were already exposed to diphtheria, they had an antibody that could be given to other people and it could help them recover from diphtheria. So the concept of passive transfer is something we're just trying to imitate, so it gives us great optimism.
And that's the CEO of Regeneron and the CEO of Moderna speaking with our own Meg Tirrell. A big thanks to them for sharing part of that.